Good morning. Another story that made big news while I was on hiatus was the story of Permit Patty. Some of you may have heard of her. In fact, if you watched the Today Show, you definitely heard about her. She is the woman out in California who called the police on her 8-year-old neighbor who was selling water outside of her house. Now, the reason she got the name Permit Patty was because apparently she called the police to report the little girl was selling water without a permit. But here's what really happened. First of all, her name is not Permit Patty. Her name is Allison Edel. And I have reached out to her actually because I side with her in this situation. Okay? Many of you won't be surprised by that. But you may be surprised at my reasons for siding with Miss Edel. First and foremost, Miss Edel was trying to work from the privacy of her own home. And what happens is outside of her house, she hears this little 8-year-old girl screaming at the top of her lungs, "Water for sale! Come buy your water! I want to go to Disneyland! Water for sale!" Constantly. She couldn't concentrate. She couldn't work. She tried, like many of us try, when other people's children are being rude and disrupt our privacy that we are entitled to in our own homes. She tried saying, "You need to keep it down." And like most children in 2018, she was ignored. Miss Edel was ignored. An elder, an adult was ignored. Because in 2018, children can do whatever the hell they want with no consequences. They can be on your property. They can disrupt your dinner, your work day, your reading time. They can do whatever they want and get away with it. So Miss Edel could not call the police and say, "This child is making noise outside of my house in the middle of the day," because that's not against the law. So she used the permit law to report this child to the police. Now, here's the interesting part that you really need to listen to, because most people that watch my show think that I absolutely hate all children, which is absolutely not true, by the way. I went to a cookout 4th of July last weekend, and I was around some of the best behaved children, the most polite children, and it was a delightful day. I enjoyed all the kids that were there. There were like 7 of them, and they were awesomely behaved. They were great. I had a wonderful time. So no, I don't hate all children. So let's take that off the table. But here's what I do hate. This entitlement, this attitude that child-free people have to allow other people's children on their property, playing and screaming and disrupting our day, because other people's kids are supposed to be the center of my universe. They're supposed to be part of my life. No. Other people's children don't belong on my property. Other people's children don't belong throwing balls and doing hockey with tennis balls around my vehicle. They don't belong off their property enough that they're so close to my property that I can't have dinner with my husband on my deck at the beach because they're annoying me. A dinner I worked hard to prepare so we could have a quiet dinner on our deck and watch the sunset over our beautiful river. And these kids, 6 or 7 of them, are playing field hockey with a tennis ball this close to our car. But I can't call the cops. And I can't talk to their parents, because you know what you get when you talk to the parents? You get your name on social media as the Wicked Witch of the West who hates kids and is a royal bitch. That's what you get. You get the parents saying they're just being kids. You're a bitch. And the kids basically say, "Fuck you, we'll do whatever we want because we're kids. We get away with it." See, when I was a kid, you didn't get away with that kind of shit. When I was a kid, I was across the street on private property climbing a tree. My neighbor called my mother on the phone and said, You need to tell Paula to get out of that tree. It's not her property and she's going to get hurt. Now, I was angry that my neighbor tattled on me. I was pissed. And I called her a witch. But you know what? My mother got my ass out of that tree. Because my mother didn't have this attitude that her child could go anywhere and do anything she wanted. And my neighbor was actually looking out for my safety. Because I could have fallen out of that tree and hurt myself. Not to mention the fact that the private property I was on could have been liable. I was doing something wrong. And back when I was a kid, if a neighbor said, your child is disrupting me on my property or doing something wrong, the parents told the child, stop it. That's it. You're done. But today, you don't get that response from the parents. You don't. Try it. Try going to a neighbor and say, your child is on my property making noise. I'm trying to watch TV. I'm trying to work. You will get a blank stare. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? They're kids. They're playing. You should be enjoying it. No. See, I don't have children. I don't enjoy that. So getting back to this story. So Miss Ettle calls the police. Now, what does this 8-year-old's mother do? Well, like in 2018, what everybody does, she takes her cell phone out. And believe me, this woman who just lost her job and is probably providing food and paying her rent through welfare, through government assistance of some sort, and her child is out on the street selling water so she can go to Disneyland because she's 8 and she needs to go to Disneyland. This woman who knows social media starts recording everything. She records her poor little girl trying to sell water to go to Disneyland because every 8-year-old just has to go to Disneyland, right? By the way, I was 8 once, never went to Disneyland. I'm 54, still never went to Disneyland. Okay? Just saying. I got over it. My mom said we couldn't afford it. That was the end of the discussion. And my mom had a job. So here's this 8-year-old, right? Selling water, not to help her mama who just lost her job pay the rent or put food on the table. See, if I had been Miss Ettle and I knew that little girl were down on the street selling water to provide necessities for her family because her mother lost her job, I would have gone downstairs. I would have said, little girl, how much are you selling your water for? I will buy it all. I'll buy every bottle of water you have so you can help your mama pay the bills. Here you go. Now, please, just stay away from my property. I'm trying to work here. There's your money. Go provide your family with food and necessities. But that's not why the little girl was selling water. She was selling water because she felt she was entitled to a vacation. Well, guess what? That's not in the Constitution that you have the right to go on vacation. So her mama starts recording, right? Because her mama knows social media. And lo and behold, within 24 hours, the entire family, 4 of them, from a good American Samaritan, had 4 free tickets, all expenses paid, to Disneyland. Wow. And guess what happened to poor Miss Ettle? Miss Ettle is a pariah. She's their fairy godmother, for God's sake. If Miss Ettle hadn't called the cops, nobody would have known about this 8-year-old little girl who just has to go to Disneyland before she's 9, even though her mother has no job and no way to pay for it, which is a parent's job, by the way. You know, if you're 8 and you want to go on vacation, you go to your parents. You don't go to the public or to GoFundMe to go on vacation. That's not what that's for. But these kids are entitled. I know when I was growing up, going to the Jersey Shore, the same hotel, doing the same shit every year for 15 years was good enough for me. I'm not scarred for life. My cousins got to go to Greece when they were 16. My mom couldn't send me. We couldn't afford it. That's the way it goes. I got over it. Trust me. It didn't scar me for life. This 8-year-old would have been okay. But again, because of Miss Edel calling the police, this little girl and her family are going to Disneyland. Her unemployed mother, probably living on government assistance for now, or unemployment, will spend some time at Disneyland. She got what she wanted, as most children usually do in 2018. Because the children rule. Children get to do whatever the hell they want. And those of us who are child-free and don't believe that any child should be on our property for any reason unless invited, well, we're the wicked witches of the West. I think Miss Edel should be thanked because she got this little girl what the little girl wanted. She's going to Disneyland. But this is the problem with America today. It's this entitlement that we are teaching our children. It's why when these children grow up and go into the workforce, the first thing they ask, how much vacation do I get a year? How many sick days do I get a year? They didn't even start work yet, and they're already trying to figure out how many days a year they can get off work. We learned when Obamacare came in that people, young, healthy people, who could have gotten health insurance fairly cheaply, didn't want to pay for health insurance because they needed that money to go to bars and restaurants and on fancy vacations, ski trips, snowboarding trips, Caribbean trips, rather than pay for health insurance, rather than pay for a retirement plan. This is what we're teaching our children, that luxuries are more important than necessities. I have seen GoFundMe accounts that are absolutely outrageous to me. Send me to Europe. Asking a stranger to send you on vacation? Are you kidding me? Those strangers, I want to go to Europe, but I'm not going to ask a stranger to send me to Europe or on any vacation because these strangers, they have their own bills to pay, medical bills, rent, mortgage, car payments, their own children's expenses. But some people have the balls to go to GoFundMe, to ask for money, to go on vacation, for in vitro fertilization, to buy a big house. That's not what GoFundMe is for, folks. GoFundMe is for people like my beloved cousin Ryan, who at 19 years old had a life-altering car accident over the past winter and he is paralyzed. That's what GoFundMe is for, when disability and Social Security won't pay all his bills, even though they should. That's what GoFundMe is for. GoFundMe is for when parents of a small child suffering from a horrible disease, a terminal disease, and their insurance won't pay for life-saving treatment. That's what GoFundMe is for. When a bright young high school graduate needs to go to college, wants to go, got in, but can't afford the tuition. That is what GoFundMe is for. It is not to send an 8-year-old to Disneyland. It is not to send anybody on any vacation anywhere. You want to go on vacation, you know what that's called? It's called get a job, save your money. That's what it's called. You don't ask strangers to pay your way. It just isn't right. It is an abuse of charity. Her mother, this young girl's mother, did her a disservice by saying, you want to go to Disneyland, go out and sell some water on the street, like an urchin. No, you know what her mother should have told her? The things that my mother told me. You know what? Mama lost her job. I'm looking for another one. You're 8. You've got some time left. We can't go to Disneyland this year. Maybe we'll go next year. But Mom has to find a job and get back on our feet. That's what the mother should have been telling this child, instead of video recording her neighbor and vilifying this woman all over social media in order to get what this woman probably thought would happen, is a good Samaritan giving the family their free Disneyland vacation, which they didn't earn and they really don't deserve. But that's the problem in America today. When I was growing up, if a parent said we can't afford something, yeah, the children were sad, but they accepted it. They got over it. They didn't blame other people. They didn't go out on the streets trying to sell anything they could find to get there. And of course, there was no social media. When I was a child, children were taught that they were not allowed to scream and yell at the top of their voices, whether outside or inside. And I was a loud kid, and I got in trouble a lot for being too loud, but I was told about it. In 2018, it's just kids being kids. But you got to remember something. Those of us who don't have children, we don't want your children on our deck, on our porch, in front of our house. We don't want your children throwing balls around our vehicles or our windows. And we have the right to say that they shouldn't be there, because they shouldn't. That's the problem. These parents are telling their kids that it's okay to say fuck you to an adult, ignore an adult when they tell you to please remove yourself from my property. And I don't think, however much you care about children, that that's fair either. That they have a right to go anywhere they want and be as rude and obnoxious as they want and disrupt other people's day just because they're kids and they're cute. And they're all cute in their own way. But they do not have the right to trespass. They don't have the right to turn my house into Kittyland when I have no children. Look, if I had children and my neighbors had children, our children would play together. And sure, there would be kids in front of my house playing. That would be normal. But the fact that I don't have children means that I should also expect my neighbors to respect that. Respect that I don't have little kids. Meaning that their children are not supposed to play on my property. It's as simple as that. And for Miss Edel, Allison, I want to tell you, I know you have gotten a lot of hate mail. You've even gotten death threats. All because an 8-year-old girl couldn't understand that her mommy can't afford to take her to Disneyland. I understand, Allison. I get it. And all the hate and all the stuff you've gotten, I'm here to tell you there are some people in this country who maybe would say you could have handled it a little differently, although I honestly don't understand how, but do stand by you. I don't think you're the Wicked Witch of the West. I don't think you're Permit Patty. I think you are a child-free woman who was trying to do a good day's work because you have a job, earn your living in the privacy of your own home, which is your right. And I believe that that 8-year-old child trespassed on that right. And if her mother wouldn't call her in, rein her in, as a parent is supposed to do, then you had no other recourse. And once again, you have turned from Wicked Witch of the West to Fairy Godmother because your actions actually got this little spoiled girl who thinks that going to Disneyland is more important than her mommy getting a job and paying the bills. Well, she got what she wanted. I hope you'll contact me, Allison. I would really love to speak with you and maybe even do an interview with you for a future show. Because I know the effects social media has when someone starts hating on you. I have been the victim of social media hate myself. In fact, I have been called the Wicked Witch of the West because I believe that children need to learn their manners and go back to the days like when I was growing up, where you respected your elders, where when an adult told you to move on, you moved on. And instead of that, fuck you, you're not my boss, I don't got to do what you say. I can do anything I want. It's frustrating. So, Allison, if you see this, please contact me. You can PM me on Facebook. I am also on YouTube. Just let me know it's you. I know right now you're going under different names because you have been so vilified in this country because of this incident, which again, with everything going on in this country is ridiculous. But whenever there's a child involved, you know how we get in America. We lose our collective minds. But hey, the good news is this little girl's gone to Disneyland. Her mother probably still doesn't have a job. They're probably on welfare, food stamps, unemployment, your tax dollars paying their bills. Ah, big deal, right? At least the kid gets to go to Disneyland. Political Paula, out.